Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini's present. Representative Brady? Representative Brady's present. Senator Brown? Senator Brown's present. Representative Gray?
Present.
Representative Gray's present. Representative Osinski?
Present.
Representative Osinski's present. Senator Pettyjohn? Present. Senator Pettyjohn's present. Representative Ramon? Present. Representative Ramon's present. Senator Townsend? Present. Senator Townsend's present. Senator Walsh?
Present. Senator
Senator Walsh is present. Representative Williams?
Present.
Representative Williams present. Senator Sokola?
Here.
Senator Sokola present. Representative Heffernan?
Present.
Representative Heffernan's present. All present.
And I just want to say thank you all so much for being here in our socially distant manner. And this is going to be safer for all of us. We have, this is being live streamed, the audio. And, you know, we're breaking ground here. First time. I would like, we're going to start this morning with an update on the revenues and a proposed path forward from Mike Jackson, who's our OMB director. And if you're sitting at your desk, you don't need your mask. But if you're walking around, you do. Okay, Mike, you're on.
So good morning, everyone. On your, I believe Dan had passed out a package of information to each of you at your desk. There's 3 sets of information. One is a revenue overview. Another are options for consideration to fund the bond bill. And then last is a proposed reduced project list from what was proposed in January to now with DFAC meeting, the Revenue Estimating Committee meeting that had occurred yesterday. So I'm going to start with the page that refers to revenue changes since the governor's recommended budget. And I'm going to make just a couple of highlighted points for that and then transition to resources for the bond bill. So it's no secret that since the governor submitted the budget and the financial plan in January, where we were at a $246 million surplus, you had a bond bill that was in front of all of you that had historic investments across clean water, education, as well as economic development. And since the onset of the coronavirus in Delaware in the middle of March in the last quarter of the fiscal year, revenue itself has decreased by $529.2 million from the time that the governor had submitted his budget. We have gone a little bit on an up and down cycle. In April, the revenue forecast was at a $785 million loss. The May forecast was a little better, just based on tracking for the in-year, and then yesterday's forecast was a little bit better as well. But we're still experiencing over $500 million of loss in forecasted revenue across fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. So the silver lining is that working internally with my office as well as with the Comptroller General's office, we've been able to resolve our current year problem. We were forecasting a $150 million deficit for the in-year, and thankfully through expenditure reductions, utilizing federal stimulus funds for Medicaid with an enhanced federal matching rate, as well as a slightly improved revenue forecast. We actually are finishing the year in a positive cash balance, finishing the year with a savings account intact, but also some of it being used, half of it being used to be able to fund operating costs. And you'll see a little bit later in terms of cash to the bond bill. There's a couple of points, though, I just want to make on revenue, and they're salient because because I think it's going to be indicative of what the next 12 to 18 months look like. First is with the drop in revenue, our actual revenue collections for the current year are down 2.1% compared to last year. The revenue forecast for fiscal year 2021 is less than a 1% growth rate. The revenue forecast for fiscal year 22 is less than 0.5% growth rate. So I think that kind of speaks volumes when the major changes in our revenue categories that have happened since the governor submitted his budget are personal income tax, corporate income tax, as well as lottery revenue. And much of those changes have occurred as a result of the onset of the coronavirus, as well as a variety of items that were put in place to be able to help slow the spread of the virus in Delaware. So I don't want to belabor the point. We've talked about it often through all of the money bills as well as the last quarter of the fiscal year. Our situation improved a little bit versus where we were a couple months ago, but it is still a $500 million drop in revenue from where we were in January, with little to no growth in the out years. Okay? So if you flip to the next page, what is in front of you are resources that are proposed for your consideration for the capital budget. And what I will just point you to before I go through item by item on the list is if you look down at the very bottom, you're going to see it's 3 rows up from the bottom. It says changes non-transportation. It's non-transportation projects. The proposed bond bill was at $525.2 million for non-transportation projects. The recommendations in front of you today stand at $344.4 million for non-transportation projects. That is a reduction from what you went through your hearings and reviewed all of the proposals of $180 million. We have gone from having a record capital investment budget to a capital budget that is indicative and similar to where the state was in fiscal year 2018 when we were confronted with a $400 million budget challenge. And to be completely candid and transparent, the size of the reduction could have been more. Our office has been working with Mike's office to be able to help find resources to be able to help fund capital projects where we had started that process back in March to be able to, make sure that we were in a positive cash position for the fiscal year, and the options that we did not use for that we're actually having in front of you today for consideration. So the point being is that we could have been worse, but it is still a significant reduction off of what you had reviewed back in March during your public hearings, as well as what the governor had proposed. So what I'll do is just really start at the top of the page. Your general obligation bonds, your bonding authority. Sure. Up to the chairs.
Madam Chair, are we permitted to ask questions while the presentation, or should we wait till the end?
Okay. You would like to have a question?
Yes.
Would that be okay with you?
It is up to the will of the committee. I can go through this list pretty quickly if you want to be able to see it in totality.
That's fine.
And stop, and then we'll entertain whatever questions you have before we get into the list.
I think, it might be, is it an overall question or about a specific item?
It's just with the theory of the process, just some basic questions, but it can wait till the end. That's fine.
Okay.
No worries.
And can I just ask quickly, when you talked about the amount, the total amount, can you, I know you'll get to this, but tell us how much is going to schools?
Sure.
Of that, what percentage?
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll get to that when we turn to
Okay, great.
the project list. Okay, Representative? Okay. So the list of resources for the bond bill at the very top starts with the general obligation bonds. This is based off of the most recent revenue forecast with just 2 adjustments that I'll touch base on when I get to the bottom of the page regarding the general fund cash that's supporting the capital budget. So you have a bonding authority of $227.5 million based upon the 5% bond authorization debt cap. Below that, you'll see a variety of one-time special funds with regard to the Department of Human Resources, Department of Finance, Agriculture, as well as a Bell helicopter lease payment. So what this basically represents is that these are special funds in agency departments that will not be used during the current fiscal year that we can program into the capital budget to support capital project items. If our revenue situation had not improved at the last DFAC meeting or had gotten worse, you would have seen these types of items being part of the in-year solution. So rather than just having them hang out there and continue into next fiscal year, we're actually trying to put them to use to fund capital projects. Below that is what's called a bond premium of $41.8 million. The governor's proposed budget had included just under $33 million of a bond premium. We actually received a greater amount from our sale in February, not our most recent refinancing, and a bond premium is basically, we sell our bonds at a coupon rate of 5%, but our true interest cost is actually better than that, given the fact that we have a AAA bond rating or a very strong financial position. So we actually receive a premium back on the sale of our bonds, and we are able to use those proceeds to be able to apply towards capital projects. It is not atypical to be able to use such proceeds in the capital budget. Below that is what's called a K-12 school construction fund. So if all of you remember, you had voted in epilogue where once the abandoned property revenue collections exceed a $554 million cap, that the amount that is over the cap goes into, first, a school construction fund. Second, could go towards paying debt for the other post-employment benefits. And third, could go towards paying down debt service. So you will see a project list with a recommendation to use the amount that we are expecting to be over the cap at the conclusion of this fiscal year to fund our school referendums that have passed since the governor's recommended budget was introduced. So what these funds will allow for are school districts such as Indian River, Smyrna, Seaford, as well as, I'm waiting for a smile from Senator Sokola's face, Christina, and the passage of their referendum of being able to fund that as well. And then the one that was already included in the capital budget was Appoquinimic's referendum that had passed in December. So you will end up seeing a project list that fully funds all of our school construction referendums that have passed. Below that, you'll see project reprogramming. Troop 7 are funds that are, Troop 7 is complete and built, and there was a little bit of money that was left over. Congrats to the state police as well as our Division of Facilities Management that actually managed that project ahead of schedule, under budget, and all of the resources applied for that project are no longer needed and complete. So we are able to reprogram just over $2 million of those funds towards future capital projects. It will not affect the troop itself and its completion because it's already done, up and running, and operational. We actually have operating money in the budget to be able to maintain it as well. The next three items are items that I'd work with the Commissioner of Corrections on that are with respect to design money that was allocated that would require future construction with regard to lobby renovations at Howard R. Young Correctional Facility as well as the Special Needs Unit at Baylor. You'll see a list of projects for the Department of Corrections that relate to their 700 megahertz operating system within their prison facilities. You'll see security camera initiatives as well as maintenance and restoration for a variety of buildings. And these are funds that basically, unless there is additional capital money to be able to move these projects along, since they're primarily designed, will just sit there. There are also appropriations that date back to 2016, 2017, and 2018. So we're looking to put those towards good use. There is architecture barrier removal funding in my office for $150,000. We have 3 years worth of funding that was available. The The 1 year was actually reverted to the general fund as part of our in-year solution. There is still prior year money that is remaining in full. And we feel as though we are able to use money that was already appropriated, since we haven't used prior year money at all, to be able to put towards future capital projects. And then lastly, which may generate some discussion, is there is still a balance in the higher education economic development investment fund for $1.2 million. If all of you remember, that was a $20 million fund last year, where there were resources that went to University of Delaware, Delaware State, Delaware Technical Community College. Some of it went to the Delaware College of Art and Design, and there was also an allocation that went to Wesley College. The residual balance, just in all transparency, these are funds that we would expect at some point that Wesley may come back and request. We are at the end of the fiscal year, and we are also, they have also closed out their school year. And then lastly, in terms of general fund cash, just as a reminder, back in April, as part of the overall budget solution, we were planning for no cash to the bond bill. With the most recent DFAC revenue estimates, the cash slated to go into the bond bill, given where the operating budget stands, as well as the allocation for grant and aid, is at $35.4 million. But I want to be able to make just a couple of points so we're all working from the same page. This level of cash to the bond bill assumes a couple of things. One is that it will set aside money of the total amount of money that became available at yesterday's DFAC. It will set aside funds to be able for the Joint Finance Committee to consider fully funding our collective bargaining agreements, as well as our salary step increases that are required by Delaware Code. So if any of you recall, the operating budget that the Joint Finance Committee had in its draft form actually paused salary step increases and paused collective bargaining contracts, and had a trigger in it to where if our revenue grew by $50 million over 2 years, that those increases would occur. Well, our revenue estimate as of yesterday grew over almost $90 million over 2 years. So what this does is sets aside funding to be able to make sure the Joint Finance Committee can revisit that topic in full. Second, it does fund open space and farmland at $5 million each. They are typically funded at $10 million each. But with a reduction, obviously, in $180 million worth of capital resources to be able to fund other projects, they are taking a little bit of a haircut. There is also dedicated revenue for what's called the Energy Efficiency Fund. Those funds would be deposited to the general fund to be able to help pay for some of our operating costs and have no dedicated revenue supporting it, primarily because there is a significant residual balance from resources that have been dedicated to that program. Lastly, just two pieces. One is, as I mentioned before, having this level of cash to our capital budget allows our Grants and Aid Act to be held harmless with a very slight reduction. And then it also keeps about half of our savings account intact going into fiscal year 2021, primarily because, as many of you had listened to DFAC yesterday, we have a revenue forecast itself where there is a significant level of concern around the potential impact of a second wave. And just in terms of inside baseball, we do have a Medicaid program where we are starting to experience an increase in the number of eligible residents to receive Medicaid. We started the pandemic at about 236,000 residents on Medicaid. We're currently at 241,000 residents on Medicaid in the last 2 months alone. And it has been paid for by what's called an enhanced federal match that is in place as a result of the national emergency for the pandemic. So we don't know how long that's going to occur. Our goal is to be able to keep half of our savings account in place to be able to deal with potential increases in Medicaid and or potential further declines in revenue as we move into fiscal year 2021. The reason why I bring all these up is because those are factors that are affecting the bottom line cash to the bond bill at $35.4 million. So if we did not withhold funding for the Joint Finance Committee to consider fully funding collective bargaining agreements and salary step increases that are required by Delaware Code for educators, that funding would go up for capital projects. So assuming all those things are accepted as a committee, now you're looking at a proposed bill that has $344.4 million of capital projects resources, and that's $180 million less than what was proposed in January, comparable to fiscal year 2018. We had a $400 million problem. Non-transportation.
I'm writing down everybody's name. Are you ready for questions?
I am done at least with just terms of where our revenue is and what your options are for resourcing the bond bill, given the reduction in revenue. And I believe there are some questions.
Okay. I first have Senator Bonini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mike, thank you. You sort of answered it, but the reality is we're sending exactly how much cash to the bond bill?
I'm sorry, Senator.
Sorry, cash to the bond bill, and I think you answered.
$35.4 million would be cash to the bond bill.
Okay, so, and then I guess the questions are, how was this list decided? Because I know I certainly wasn't consulted, and I don't believe anybody in my caucus was consulted, and I'm pretty sure no one in the House Republican caucus was consulted. And I don't know how many members of this committee were consulted, and perhaps I just missed meetings, but I'd like to know who came up with these recommendations.
Do you mean the list that we didn't go over yet, or what Mike has talked about already?
Oh, Madam Chair, the whole list, I guess, is the.
Okay,
Is,
were
I mean,
you
I'm happy to
gonna
hold
go
off
over
that question.
Or?
Pardon me?
Happy to
Were
hold
you
that
going
question
to go over that? Or
Well, we just went over the list, and to answer your question,
very
Senator,
general? Okay.
many of the items that are on this list are developed by my office as we go through and comb through accounts that are where projects may have been completed, or we may have funding that is basically was going to be part of an in-year solution that we no longer needed, that we can put towards the capital budget, and we also review that list, with the chairs.
Right. We've had several meetings with Mike and Ruth Ann and the chairs about the direction we wanted to go with the bond bill and how we very much wanted to keep our schools funded, keep our infrastructure and our maintenance moving, and construction projects that were for state buildings. But I don't know if that answers your question.
So, Madam Chair, I think it does. But just to verify, I mean, I certainly, Mike and his office have an obligation to put a framework together for the committee.
Correct.
There's no question, and I certainly agree with that. But we have before us a list that has specific cuts and adds and all these kind of things from the original bond bill, and we are, I don't know if we're planning on meeting more into the future, but as I said earlier, I mean, I certainly was not consulted or, quite frankly, informed of any of this. I don't know, perhaps other members were. Perhaps I get about 900 emails a day, literally. So
Well,
Madam Chair, let me finish, please. I certainly could have missed that. I am guessing that's not the case. I am also guessing that I am not the only member here who was not consulted or even informed of what was coming before this morning. And, I have a little bit of a concern. I mean, I think we have, over the years in this committee, had a really good relationship about working things through because, quite frankly, prior to this morning, I thought that was based on mutual respect and responsibility. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. But even if take that aside, the bond bill is a three-quarters bill and always has been a tremendously bipartisan bill. Quite frankly, very proud of that. And those of you who've been on this committee for a while, and where Mike's been on both sides of this committee, so I think you'll agree that frequently I've been able to help get this done.
Okay, and we're all,
Madam
oh,
Chair,
you're
I
not
apologize.
done. You tell me when you're finished.
I'm not yet,
Okay.
and get comfortable because I plan on saying a lot today.
But the list he's gone over is where the money is from, not where they're proposing to spend
Right.
it. The next
That's right.
pages, he could go over.
Right, he hasn't done where we're spending it. This is, only thing I'd like to bring to everybody's attention is that until yesterday's DFAC, we were thinking there was absolutely zero cash to the bond bill. So all these decisions on where we could spend money and revert money really didn't happen until yesterday afternoon. We haven't gone over this whole list, but if this is the question on the top, I'm just saying that's really up until yesterday we thought we had no money. And I see you, Senator Townsend. I do have a couple people in front of you.
Madam Chair, I'd
I'm just
be happy to hold my comments to the next section. I apologize if I
okay.
was premature.
Representative Ramon.
Madam Chair, my apologies. Madam Chair, this is more technical. It's actually very
Okay,
timely.
thank you.
I've been receiving texts from people who say the live stream is not working.
Okay.
Is it possible for someone to take a look at that? Perfect. So I
Okay.
think we should everyone
Thank
should bear
you.
that in mind.
Someone should fix that. Okay. Representative Williams, you had a question?
I just wanted some clarity on the steps. So if you could just explain that a little bit more. If we do not fund the steps this year, we will be obligated to fund them next year. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
let me just clarify our comments. The budget, as it stood when before June DFAC, paused salary steps for educators and paused collective bargaining agreements. Yesterday's DFAC meeting would allow for those steps to occur during fiscal year 2021 without any trigger in the language. And the amount of cash going to the bond bill assumes that JFC is going to adopt that on Monday when they meet again for grant and aid.
About the steps.
Correct.
So does that include like raises for the bus? I know there's some negotiation with the bus drivers. And
No,
contractors.
there would be no general wage increase beyond those who have collective bargaining agreements, as well as required statutory step increases for
But that's
collective
for
bargaining agreements.
JFC
That
to
is for the Joint
decide.
Finance Committee.
Right,
Yes.
But,
Right.
But wait, Madam Chair, but it is a decision for us to make if we agree with this, correct?
Excuse me?
Can I just finish asking my questions first?
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, thank you. If I could, because you brought this up, and so I feel that we're able to ask questions about it.
Yeah, but I only brought it up under the guise of basically saying that the amount of cash to the bond bill would be greater
Right.
if we weren't setting this funding aside for the committee to revisit the issue. That's it.
So am I allowed to continue with my questioning on this
It
or
is
not?
up to the chairs. Certainly not relevant to the committee other than
I mean, the one thing is that we are under the assumption that that's what, from a call with the chairs, what they're going to do. What the JFC decides about other non-contractual agreements, we won't know till they meet Monday. So we're leaving the money aside for them. They could decide anything. They could decide to do that. They could decide to put more in grant and aid. They could decide, but because the agreement on the contractual agreements, there was an agreement reached with the different unions that if revenue went up, they would put that money in. Now, as I think that money, like if it got paid next year, it would be retroactive. So that is an agreement, but what JFC is going to do or consider, we can't answer that because we don't know.
No.
You know, we don't know what they're going to do.
No, I realize that. I was just looking for some clarity, that's all.
So that money we put there because of that agreement that was made,
Correct.
but that's it. That's all we know. And the money for grant and aid, that's all we know. Apparently the streaming is back up. I don't see any other questions. Representative Ramon, you said you didn't want to ask, but now you can.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Oh, that's fine.
I was just trying to wait till the live stream got addressed. So, yes, I have like two different sections. The first section is just really where we started in this whole conversation. It seems to me, DFAC's numbers and how they do it are extremely important in the multipliers as we go across. Could you answer just two portions to that question? How was the PIT movement from fiscal 2020 to fiscal 2021, July 15th date? Because most people probably grabbed their refunds in 2020 but moved the payments in 2021. And I only ask because we've never done something like this before. Normally DFAC has a formula. How do they project that? And the second, and Michael, bear with me because I know I've asked you this before, but I would like a little more detail on how the CARES Act money enabled us on both sides, JFC and possibly bond. I don't think it affects bond much. Enabled us to defer expenses or a cost, I guess is the word they keep using, that might have saved a portion of money that when we could then move over to somewhere else. And how much is that 100? We did not. No. So for the second portion of the question, the CARES Act money is not factored into our budget at all as far as deferring.
No. No. If you're,
are we not allowed to do that?
Correct.
Okay.
The CARES Act money, what Representative Ramon is referring to, is something that's called the Coronavirus Relief Fund. It is was a part of the Phase 3 of the Federal Stimulus Act, where the state received $1.25 billion. And a portion of that went to Newcastle County by formula. It was $322.8 million. And the state received a direct allocation of $927 million. Those funds have to be used for COVID-related expenditures that are over and above the fiscal year 2020 budget from March to the end of December. And if the general, let's just say the U.S. Treasury deems that after the fact how we use those funds were not COVID related, we have to pay it back. So our intention of using the CARES Act money or the Coronavirus Relief Fund would be to help supplement and pay for the increase in the unemployment insurance claims statewide, to pay for testing, contact tracing, to help pay for the child care infrastructure program, where child care centers are receiving an enhanced reimbursement to deal with additional safety precautions. It will be used to help pay for rent and utility assistance enhancements for families directly impacted by COVID and are unable to make their payments. It will be used to help pay for the small business loan program for the hospitality industry. It will be used to help, at least for Kent and Sussex County, since Newcastle received its own allocation, for COVID-related expenditures for those municipalities as well as Kent and Sussex County governments. So it isn't something that we can use to supplant our budget.
And that's not actually what I was trying to infer. What I'm suggesting is we've 10 times the spending for the Department of Labor to be able to process just staff. I love the concepts of how you're using it. Don't get me wrong, but for all that additional staff for the Department of Labor, for all the additional staff in the Division of Health and Social Services, so we had a budget of blah, and we're like blowing them up. We couldn't offset all that additional expense with CARES Act money?
We did with the federal Medicaid funds, but for the other programs that you're talking about, they would have been costs that we would have had to incur if the federal government hadn't stepped in with specific federal appropriations to help pay for those costs.
So if our cost to process unemployment claims and they brought in all those new people and we put 10 times as much cost in the months of March on for the Department of Labor salaries, they were not offset. They're just rolled into the budget, and we know that.
No, they're paid for through a specific federal grant for that purpose.
But not CARE. Not CARE Act.
Not correct. It's a specific federal grant that paid for the additional unemployment insurance administrative staff.
So the answer is really that the additional costs on that side of us handling the COVID reaction is not displaced at all in this budget. We're still back. Thank you. That's number one. The one before that I did ask was the digestion of the PIT that got moved from 2020's. A lot of people won't pay their taxes till they have to. So therefore, maybe a lot of those payments got deferred. Do we have a mathematical something that they tried to use this time because they don't have really history to use to give them that answer? How was that digested differently, or are they just kept all the math the same?
No, the math wasn't kept the same. Some of the changes at both the May and June revenue forecast actually put a little bit of money back into PIT versus the original assumptions that were made in April due to the fact that taxes would be delayed until July. So the original estimate back in April was that there was around, I would say, between $300 and $350 million worth of delayed personal income taxes.
Exactly.
That got a little bit better through the end of June because we did have residents actually pay their taxes before that. But we still have a little residual that will come in July for next year. And it's actually just a very quick point to recall when I had spoke earlier around some of the growth rates. The growth rate in fiscal year 21 of 0.9% is a little artificially high because some of it's just due to delayed personal income tax collections that should have occurred this year.
That's exactly what.
So when we start talking about our operating budget and our savings account, we have a revenue forecast at this point, and we deal with facts when we put together the budget that's basically flat off of a reduced base.
And if I may, Madam Chair, the two things that were on the second portion of your discussion were that what Representative Williams was referring to, and I just did not hear you. Did you say all steps across the board that were removed because of the extra money that came in were reverted back to? I mean, we're paying the contracts as we were supposed to as far as they concerned with steps across the board, right? All states?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last question was, you did happen to say a slight reduction to grant and aid. Could you just, because I was led to believe that everybody was staying at the same.
It has nothing. There was some one-time funding in the current year grant and aid.
Got it.
It's being reduced some.
So no one else is being reduced.
The funding will allow for no one being reduced, but at the end of the day, it's the Joint Finance Committee will decide.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to, I'm getting a lot of texts from people that are trying to listen, and what they have to do is go to legis.delaware.gov and click on Listen Now, and that apparently is what works. It wasn't working, but now it is working. Any questions on that? I guess if anybody's texts you, just text that. Representative Walsh.
Senator.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Last time I was here, I got a promotion.
We're in the same representative district, Madam Chair. I didn't want to get fired yet. Give me time.
We are that. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Madam Chair. More of a statement than anything. I would like to commend the Secretary for finding the cash to negotiate these collective bargaining and step issues that we're dealing with. I know I've had these issues since March with a lot of colleagues. I'm sure a lot of us in here have been dealing with that. We did pass legislation, Senate Bill 8, that dealt with collective bargaining, where they were able to bargain, or collective bargaining units were able to bargain for wages and compensation. And then this COVID pandemic hit. So I definitely commend the Secretary and his office for finding at least an avenue where they can sit down for a lot of these units for the first time ever to be able to sit down and as a unit, as their basic unit, to be able to bargain for wages and compensation. I know myself and Representative Zinsky ran that legislation. We worked long and hard to make it, to close a lot of loops in that and to get that legislation passed. So hopefully I'm looking forward to this committee passing that and JFC hopefully sitting down at least to be able to bargain for these wages and compensations. And hopefully soon, someday soon, we also find some money where we can give our pensioners also a raise someday. So I like I said, I commend the Secretary Jackson for that. Thank you.
I am very happy that we were able to have our DFAC went up, and we were able to, JFC is going to be able to make those decisions. So I support that. I see a question from Senator Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still hearing people say that the Listen Now link is not working. So I don't know if that's possible to.
I just tested it here and it works. You have to use Internet Explorer.
You have to use what?
Internet Explorer.
What about on a cell phone?
Okay. Just having a tech guy.
Gotcha. The other thing, Madam Chair, I will say, just because I know you mentioned earlier that while we sit here, we shouldn't wear masks. That's completely fine, but I'm going to note because I'm sitting within like 6 feet of the budget director who's going to speak the most today. I intend to do so. I just want to let you know I'm not ignoring you, but I'm sitting close to somebody who's fine.
No. I think that, we are all trying to not only keep ourselves safe, but keep everybody else safe. And I commend our staff here and the CG's office and all our staff at Legg Hall to be able to, as you see, they took all the chairs out, and that was a lot of hard work to make sure that having this meeting in person worked, and I'm very, very glad. Mike, do you want to continue?
Sure. If there's no other questions, we can turn to the project list, and I'll provide just a short.
So before you
Sure.
Finish, are we going to be able to make this available so that they can hear a replay? Because saying on the floor that you need Internet Explorer is great, but someone who doesn't have it doesn't hear you say that or isn't on it. And so we do, I think, have an obligation to make sure that the public has a right to hear our deliberations.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
And I just got another text. It's not working. I don't know why.
Madam Chair, I've got a problem with this not working the way it should. I mean, we are shutting the public out of Legislative Hall at this point in time. Going to the main page, it says for budget hearings, click here, and that shoots you to the YouTube pages. Is there a way that we can get that active on there relatively quickly so that the public can
DTI,
access?
Can you try to work on that? They're working on it.
I mean, using Internet Explorer is fine if you have a PC, but a whole lot of people don't if they have a Mac or if they just use their tablets. So
Right.
this is an issue with transparency at this point in time.
People have. Yeah. What can we do about that? You're checking. Okay.
Just do it now.
So maybe we'll do a recess and we'll recess until they can fix this. Okay, Senator Townsend.
Madam Chair, can we recess the caucus? Would that be
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, that's what we were going to do. I didn't read the whole agenda, but yes, we'll recess the meeting. We can recess the caucus, and we'll make sure DTI can figure that out. And I do apologize for all the technology issues. Okay, bye. Recess. There was an email sent to all bond bill members, but she's going to explain about now we're back running with audio.
Thank you, everyone.
I apologize for the inconvenience. The Chrome browser and the Firefox browser have deprecated a software that we use in the player that normally shows up on our House Audio website. So they have defaulted that to off. So your Chrome users that are trying to access the audio won't be able to because Chrome has automatically turned that off with their last update. So they will be able to hear it over Internet Explorer and on their cell phones. If they do not, please let me know. Please send me an email or a text at 410-829-1440, and I will address that immediately. We do have a working ticket with DTI to get that player updated so that it doesn't occur again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a question? Representative Williams.
Could I have that, sorry, could I have that number again?
It's 410-829-1440.
1440. Thank you.
It is posted on the website as well to use Internet Explorer or a cell phone.
Okay, because I know we were all getting texts about that. Okay, I would like to, we've had a couple changes. I want to yield the floor to Mike Jackson. There is House session in here later today, so we are pretty much on a time frame of being out of here by 3 or 2:30, I think. Director Jackson.
So where would we like to begin, Madam Chair? We have a...
Let's talk about the changes on that first thing, and then we can update.
Sure. So what...
And take a vote and update.
Sure, I actually had mine.
Project, the first page. Not the first page, but the second page. The page that starts general obligation bonds.
Yeah, I'm looking for my copy. My apologies. So what the chair is referring to, we had gone over a resource sheet for the capital budget that included, does not have a heading, but it starts with the row general obligation bonds. On the flip side of the first page, Senator Walsh has it, I think Representative Williams has it, about Senator Townsend, but I think we're all working from the same page, right. One-page document. So we had a lot of conversation around on a line called the Higher Education Economic Development Investment Fund for $1.2 million and some change. And after much conversation with the chairs as well as with Senator Bonini, while we are going to keep the dollar amount, we're going to change the source of funding. As we are at the end of our fiscal year, which means that we are basically going through all of our accounts and making sure that whatever money isn't going to be spent, it reverts back into the general fund. So what the change would be rather than that source of funding come from that source, it would come from debt service reprogramming. So the title of the line where it says Higher Economic Development Investment Fund, you would strike that and put debt service reprogramming. And the dollar amount will stay the same. And I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to mention have any words around that or not, or Senator Scully, either way.
I don't know. I would think. I think that if there is no questions on that, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Representative Osinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So are you saying the 1.2 million is coming away from the higher economic development? Is that
Stays there.
The money will stay there. At this point, it's not allocated to any one particular institution. When we do appropriate capital money, it does last for 3 years, so this will allow the funds to continue to be applied for.
But it's going to be under the heading of debt service reprogram.
Correct.
What, yeah,
It's
you're
just a
going to
different-
repurpose other money, and
different
this
source.
money will stay, the 1.2 will stay in that fund. Is
Okay,
there
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would like a motion to approve this page up to general fund cash.
Madam Chair, I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion that we approve the general fund cash line of $35,400,500.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, I would like a roll call, please, on the vote for the motion.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini absent. Representative Brady?
It's coming. Say yes or no. We're doing roll call on the motion.
Present. Yay.
Representative Brady? Yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown absent. Representative Gray?
Yes.
Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh?
Yes.
Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 10 yes, 2 absent.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mike, do you want to go on?
Sure. So what you have just done is basically vote on resources that will support the capital budget for non-transportation projects that totals $344.4 million, which is about $180 million less than what was in January. You have a project list with the heading. It is called the Section 1 Addendum Fiscal Year 2021 Capital Project Schedule. It's 7 pages. It's in front of you. It's a pretty bare bones list of projects. You've had it for a little bit of time, and maybe rather me go through line by line. I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have, but let me just provide you a summary of the total amount of projects that are represented here. There's schools represent 51% of the total project, so just slightly more than half. And in context, what that does is it provides minor capital improvement funding for our school districts. It also fully funds all referendums that have been passed either prior to this fiscal year or during the fiscal year, which also includes Appoquinimic's new referendum, Indian River, which was a long-standing, I would say, challenge in order to get this project moving forward. Christina School District, Seaford, as well as Smyrna. There is also on page 1 a continuous, on page 2, as part of education, a recommendation for another $7.5 million for the City of Wilmington education initiatives And what that will do is, in essence, allow for planned renovations at Bayard Middle School to continue, as well as set aside funding for design of the new school that was proposed for Bancroft in the fiscal year 2021 budget. One other piece that I just want to touch base on, since we're talking about design, you will see on the first page as well, the Kent and Sussex family court facilities. While there was a proposal to set aside $17.5 million for that project, given our drastic change in revenue from January until today, the proposal at this point is to set aside no additional funds for the project. However, I think as a committee as well as an administration are committed to moving forward with both court facilities, and there is sufficient funding that has been appropriated in prior years to continue with design work that will occur through this fiscal year, which I would have to assume as you move into fiscal year 2022 that there will be considering construction costs for one, if not both, of those facilities. The other piece, a couple other points I would make about this project list is that minor capital improvements, as well as maintenance and restoration funds for 675 buildings approximately across state government, is pretty much held flat for all agencies. And just to kind of put that into perspective, Senator Sokola has been on the chair of the bond committee for some time. It's a constant conversation of whether we have sufficient funds to maintain our buildings or not. Well, that comes, the level of funding that's in front of you comes to about $50,000 per building. That is not a lot. Obviously, there are going to be some buildings that receive more than the $50,000. However, it just kind of averages it out. It kind of shows how streamlined of a budget that's in front of you. The other piece is for higher education. While we're talking about maintenance, it does provide for $10 million per institution, primarily one, because it keeps pace with legislation that you had passed a couple years ago on Senate Bill 50, which would direct maintenance funding for Delaware Technical College at $10 million a year, at least the intent to do so, but keeping the other two institutions whole compared to the current year on their maintenance funding as well. And I'm be happy to kind of share some perspective on that in terms of what those institutions are dealing with when it comes down to the level of funding per building. As a list as a whole, it does leverage about $150 million in other funds, not just school property tax money for school construction, but also federal research grants and federal matching funds, such as for the beach preservation program. And then lastly, just since there's been a significant level of discussion around this, the original proposal of $50 million to support water projects has been reduced to about, in total, of state capital funding to $13 million, but there is roughly another $18 million of federal match money that's associated with it. So if you accept the recommendations as they are, it would be $5 million for clean water, $5 million for drinking water, $3 million for drainage, with $18 million in federal match money leverage for the drinking water and the clean water program. That is, I think, everything kind of in a nutshell.
Are there any questions? Senator Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I definitely will have questions or input about as we get into whether or not we add any items or shift anything around. But I do have a question about the list as it currently exists. And I apologize if I'm just missing something. Mike, for Christina School District, you mentioned fully funding the referendum. I'm on page 7 of 7 for this is where I see 3 line items for Christina. And my apologies again if I'm just missing something, but I know there's more to the referendum than what's listed here. So where are we funding their capital referendum that were passed, or are we not funding that? They're all local. They're all local. Okay.
So what you will see, just to answer Senator Townsend's question, Christina's referendum had projects that had a state share associated with it, and then projects that were just entirely locally funded projects. So you will find them as you go through different sections of the bond bill. You will see the local portion of that for because we provide the authority for them to issue bonds on the local side for those projects.
Senator Pettyjohn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we maximizing the federal monies that are out there with the state monies we're putting in?
With respect to this project list?
Yes.
So the one item on here that I'm aware of, that where we may have some challenges with, however, there is federal money that actually may be able to help supplement it. If you go to page 1, under the technology fund, there is $3 million that is there, and what that funding was proposed for was updating and upgrading school building technology switches, but not for every school district. There are some school districts who have already made these investments and leveraged what are called federal E-rate funds. Okay? Not every district did that. However, school districts are getting, through the CARES Act, about $40 million to be able to help transition to a more remote learning environment, given the coronavirus, and upgrade. They could use it for technology. So our thought process was to be able to maximize those funds before we make the investment in this budget. Mm-hmm.
Do I have other questions? Representative Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, can you go over the clean water? I'm looking here. I guess it's on page 4 of 7. Is that where you've got the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for $5 million? It was $17.5. Shoreline and water management, is that part of the? Is anything there for dredging? How do you define shoreline and waterway management?
It's beach preservation, which is primarily to be able to address, there are specific projects that leverage federal resources along not just our Delaware beaches, but pieces of it on the inland bays as well.
And then the third piece with $3 million is that's the old Century 21 money. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Senator Ramon?
Senator Walsh, she's switching me and you back and forth here. I know that's okay.
Representative Ramon.
I'm not sure what's worth, the House trying to get rid of me or the Senate not taking me. It's one or the other. But I just have a couple in order, Secretary, if you could just help me with some of these. Selbyville Public Library, $3,687,000. Is that finalizing a project, starting a project? What?
That is a project that will also leverage another $3.6 million in local match money. My understanding is that it's ready to go and has the match funding that's available.
So it is a new project.
It is a new project for construction. I believe there was some prior year money. Checking.
And Fraunhofer's vaccine, the 1 point. I'm sorry.
I just want to follow up on that. In 2017, there was some planning money set aside for that.
Thank you. Fraunhofer's vaccine, I know that's eliminated, and I do know that they had like $3 million that they matched our 1.5. I'm not as worried about this year, although if you can comment, that would be great. But does that go backwards and hurt us in any other year where they had their matching monies? And is this the 5th year of the 5 years that we did this, or?
Yeah, Fraunhofer is not a multi-year agreement. My understanding, it's simply largely based on the will of the committee. The prior year money that's been appropriated, my understanding also is that it's been allocated and leveraged the resources it was supposed to leverage.
Thank you. I was just trying to make sure they didn't have a clawback or we wouldn't lose any of the money that they brought. I was just getting clarity, that's all.
Yeah.
This is the 4th?
4th year, but in terms of a specific agreement.
That's okay.
I don't believe that's.
I got it. Thank you. And then the Transportation Infrastructure Investment Fund, is that that DelDOT's fund that we just added last year?
You're correct. There was legislation that all of you had passed establishing this fund where it was funded at $10 million a year. Half of it comes from transportation, half of it comes out of our
Right. And then the last question was about the Department of Transportation and on the backside, the road systems. That's the CTF, right?
That's grants and allocations is CTF.
And CTF. I'm sorry, grants, allocations, and CTF.
Grants and allocations is where CTF is. You already voted on
Right.
this piece the first time when you met last week.
So all those particular numbers in the department were done when the secretary spoke to us.
Correct.
That's where I was going.
When you vote this in, you've already voted in the transportation.
I thought so. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question, Senator Sokola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Ramon, thank you for that question about Fraunhofer. I probably should have reached out to you. They reached out to the chairs, and we had a very healthy discussion. They submitted, I believe, epilogue language that will basically recognize that they don't need money this year. They're kind of going through a restructuring. Their number of jobs there is way down. And with their parent in Germany and a lot of other things that are going on, they hope to come back in the next year or two to reestablish the relationship that they've had. And it will continue to include institutions of higher ed as well as the business community of Delaware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of heard a little bit of that. I was just concerned that it didn't go backwards and hurt us at all. That's all with previous monies. Thank you.
I have a question from Representative Brady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a concern about a project that we had funded last year, and there was full anticipation that we would be funding it again this year, primarily because the project itself includes part of our northern Newcastle County state park system, and that's specifically the new project that houses the admin, the operational maintenance, and the public safety, our park rangers, in the new project that's formerly known as Baynard Stadium. And it's my knowledge that, excuse me, the state's component to that particular project is in excess of $6 million. However, they were anticipating this year 1.75, and I, quite frankly, I'm at a loss for ideas of how to fund that.
And that would be a part of natural resource and environmental control. Is that what you're saying?
I believe it was a separate line last year. I'm not. Remember?
Mike or Mike?
It was a separate line in last year's budget.
The line was one that kind of held us up that last night. And if you remember, we had our hearing in March, and DNREC, who they said this was going to help DNREC, DNREC didn't have it on their list this year. So to the extent that they're calling it a commitment, it's really a legislative request item. And the fact of the matter is, I actually met with DNREC in July because I was kind of annoyed about what happened last year and how it happened, and the fact that if it was DNREC, why wasn't it a DNREC initiative? They said it was a DNREC project, so I ended up only meeting with DNREC and not with Sally's. And the fact is, DNREC said if we had this money, this is not how we would have spent it. And so, I was kind of surprised it didn't come up again this March. The entire project, I think, is $20 million or something like that. They got a $16 million one-time gift from the person who they're naming the stadium after. And it seems to me in this era that since there might not be sports this fall anyhow, I'm not surprised that it wasn't in their proposal, but it also wasn't in DNREC's proposal. And, I don't know if opening it up to private nonprofits is something that would be healthy for the state at this time. The proposal that, and we had a little discussion over lunch, pretty much everything in here either leverages money or it's state entirely. Since we don't know where this virus is going to go, and since all of our neighboring states are making significant cuts, they're laying off people, they're making major cuts to education, they're doing other things. Florida is losing about $1 billion a month. We're actually kind of an outlier with where we are, but recognizing that a number of states are starting to go back up in the virus, we could have another downturn economically. And it would be a whole lot easier for us to claw back within the state if we need some money because of an unanticipated, or some people are saying it should be anticipated, second wave that would have a significant economic impact on Delaware. So, you know, I recognize it's a project that has a lot of interest, but and I didn't know that it wasn't going to be part of a proposal, but I would tend to not be supportive of that in light of the fact that $1.75 million there is going to mean probably $1.75 million in Kent, and in Sussex, and in the city of Wilmington, and you know, it's to the point where once we open that box, it's going to be very hard to shut it, and you know, I don't know that that would be the first priority for the city of Wilmington if we had another 1.75 million that could go into this year's bond bill.
Madam Chair, I'd like to.
I have, yes.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the Senator for your detailed.
Talk right into the microphone, like
Yes,
right
for your
in.
detailed response and remarks, and I appreciate that. Much like last year, if you recall, I and you as well find ourselves at the last minute realizing that this was a critical issue. She had asked me about this a week ago. I would thought all systems were go, but it was brought to my attention yesterday, and certainly in consideration of the other items here today. And I just thought I'd pose that question. So I appreciate your response. Thank you, Senator.
I've made it a point when asked to go up and down the state when there's a request for bond money. I was at the river in Milford, the shipbuilder. I've been to schools, to the courts, to you name it. And I reached out last year and didn't get a response. I did get an email this week, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but I have had my staff try to reach out to see if we can get together and have a discussion. And if you want to be in on it, that would be great. I'd be more than happy to open that up to whoever else wants to be involved. But I feel like we have an obligation, if it's public money, to make sure that this is the kind of thing that we could defend to the public.
Again, I thank you, Senator. And I believe that gentleman's name may have been Brendan.
Yes, Brendan.
Keneal. Yes, but I will arrange that. Thank you.
Representative Osinski's next, but is this on this same issue?
No, Madam Chair. It was
Okay.
on Fraunhofer since it's located in my district, but I got that question answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Brown.
Thank you. My questions are more around housing, and just for those that may be online or listening or however, if OMB could speak to, I see under DSHA there is strong neighborhoods and urban redevelopment, but downtown development district is not listed. And then also the Purpose-Built Communities Project, just how we came to this conclusion beyond COVID's impact. If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
You want to answer that? I was just asking that to Ruth Ann Jones. She starred under Delaware State Housing Authority, the urban redevelopment. Is that, and Ruth Ann, could you add anything to that?
So is the question, where's the downtown development district funding?
Yes.
Yes, it's under urban redevelopment under the Delaware State Housing Authority. That's the name of the appropriation.
Okay. And purpose-built. We just zeroed it out because we don't have anything to put toward it.
I got two conversations. Can you repeat the question, Senator?
Yeah. On the purpose-built communities project, we zeroed it out because we don't have any funds to put toward the project.
Correct.
Okay. If that's the simplest rationale, then okay.
I mean, I think what we made an attempt to do in a list is be able to come up with statewide programs that can be allocated throughout both Newcastle, Kent, Sussex, including in the county seats for each of those counties. So when you look at housing, the Housing Development Fund is a statewide program. Strong Neighborhoods Housing Fund is a statewide program, and so is Downtown Development Districts. Obviously, there was an original recommendation to be able to support that when we had a bond bill that was almost $900 million that is now reduced to just over $700 million. It's a worthy investment. I'm not arguing with that as an investment, particularly with what it's trying to achieve in a particular area of the city. I think working with the chairs are trying to focus on statewide type investments. That's really the background, Senator.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer. I just wanted clarification for those that may be listening. Thank you.
I have a question from Senator Sokola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, purpose-built communities, I believe, does leverage some funding, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm wondering if, since there's also a housing component to the Kingswood project, if that wouldn't be eligible for consideration under either Strong Neighborhood or Urban Redevelopment.
There could be pieces of the Strong Neighborhoods Housing Fund that could go towards supporting purpose-built communities, depending upon what the project would be within, the radius within the city where that is focused. In terms of leveraging other funds, there may be other. Yeah. So we don't have anything specifically identified, but I would probably have to follow up on that one because I do think there was, in the past, there were some community organizations that were contributing to that as well.
I believe either community organizations or private sector, if I'm not mistaken, also contribute to that.
Correct.
We might want to huddle about that at some point to see if there's a natural fit or at least a share of it with respect to Strong Neighborhoods or Urban Redevelopment or Housing Development Fund, because there is clearly a housing component.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question on page, need to get my glasses on, 1 of 7, the judicial projects. You made it clear in your statement that project is going to, for Kent and Sussex family court facilities, are going to move forward, but there's no funding here. Is it anticipated that prior year fundings would be used to do engineering or some prior planning? Can you address that one more time and better explain that?
Again, talking to Senator Townsend, I'm assuming you're referring to the Kent Sussex Family Court facilities? Okay. So dating all the way back to fiscal year 2015, I believe there has been funding going toward both of those projects, Kent and Sussex Family Court facilities. There is about, I'd say around $15 million of that funding that is available that was previously appropriated that will go towards the support of architecture and design for both family court facilities, which is about an $11 million contract that is actually ready to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have 2 questions. One is under, it's on page 3. There's purpose. I mean, unless this is what Senator Scola just said, purpose-built communities. That money was taken out, and what was the function for that money?
Right. So there's a variety of mixed income housing units, some improvements to the East Side Charter School, expansion of the Kingswood Community Center in the Riverside neighborhood that uses purpose-built communities. Is basically it's a model that has, I would call it, kind of wraparound development. All of the housing needs, social support needs, educational needs within a particular area of the city.
And do you think without that money, but the money we have in the other type of housing, it will help? They are still able to access?
I said it may be. I said it could potentially be a source. The Strong Neighborhoods Communities Fund may be able to be used to help fund some projects in there. I can't sit here and guarantee that.
But it did it stop any projects that were already in progress?
This is not a state-funded, project or initiative. I would defer back to those who are running it.
Okay, and then the other question was, I see the Riverfront Development Corp. What was in the governor's recommended is 7.4, and then it comes to 3. Was part of that 7.4 supposed to be for the development of the other side of the riverfront and the moving of Salvation Army, or was what
Correct.
was that money? So how will that be able to go forward, or will that not?
We have epilogue language to serve as an option to be able to help it move forward.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Any other questions? Okay. What are we doing next? Okay, we can, could I have a motion on the list, or is there any other questions? We also have epilogue to go over, so some of those numbers might change at the end here. Does somebody have their hand up?
So
Senator Townsend.
I defer to Senator Sokola.
I should just call everybody Mr., except for him.
I think my question might relate more to epilogue, so I'm happy to hold off and particularly to defer to Senator Sokola.
Senator Sokola.
You have a good deal of epilogue to go over.
Yeah, so let's keep going.
So
are we ready?
Is it premature to make a motion to adopt this list, or should we do epilogue first and then?
I was going to ask the chairperson if we could caucus just for a couple minutes, just for clarity. That's in the process, that's all.
Are we going to
Not a
caucus
challenge,
with
not-
the epilogue? I mean,
I would second that. I think there's a little bit lack of clarity.
So we've got to try to be quick on this, though.
Yeah.
The House does want this, so
if we're being kicked out,
is 10 or 15 minutes sufficient, do you think, or? We had.
how about okay, we're going to take a break, recess till 1:30.
It's something that I think we can make an argument. It helps everybody upstate, downstate. So go ahead, Senator Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Are we live? I think we're live. Are we live?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll go back in session.
We are gavelled and live. Perfect. My apologies. I heard the tail end of what Senator Sokola just said. I think it was inviting me to give quick remarks about what we had just discussed. Last year, this committee asked OMB, I think, as a point, to solicit proposals or frameworks for a disparity study to identify ways in which Delaware could do a much better job as a state of diversifying our procurement. Right now, I think there's troublingly low numbers in that regard. So OMB went out and did that and received a variety of ideas and bids, and the idea had been that we would fund that. And so there will be epilogue language that I'll be proposing to make sure that that happens. I think it was valid last year, valid the year before, but even more so valid now to try and make sure that we are being very attentive to that kind of diversity. I'm happy to answer any questions if any colleagues have them. I appreciate Mike working with us to make sure that we can finally, to do this disparity study. And so I appreciate the opportunity to give quick remarks on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? And Being none, I would like to vote in this list and then go to epilogue, because we have a lot of work and we have a little bit of time. So are there any other questions or comments? If not, I would like a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the list as presented.
Second.
Could you please do a roll call?
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Yes. Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Yes. Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray is absent. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh?
Yes.
Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 11 yes, 1 absent.
We hold until if Mr. Gray gets back here.
I know, but he said he's on the way, so we'll wait. Yeah, we'll just hold to read the results until, we'll give him a couple minutes. Because I think, I'm not listening.
Madam Chair,
That was a good question.
all kidding aside, you're not allowed to hold open a roll call unless these kind of procedures are happening.
Oh, Mike recorded his voting.
Now we're even.
11 yes.
Somebody text him.
Is he on the, I thought he was like about to walk in the door. Is he not? Okay, can we just do it? Okay, then we're just going to continue the roll call. I voted, and you want to announce the results?
11 yes, 1 absent.
Motion carries. I thought he was about to walk in the door.
Mike, I trust. Thank you. Yeah.
You want to do what's on hold first?
So if we want to just go ahead and start with section 2, which is the new section. So now that we have the numbers voted, we can start to go through. So you should have all just received a thick packet of new epilogue. The first document on top is section 2. This is just the authorization of 20-year bonds. So this just matches the numbers that you just voted in that table, which is section 1. Keep going. There's pages of that. Section 3, appropriation of general fund. Again, this lines up with the numbers that you just voted in the table. Next page is section 4, which is general fund reprogramming. This is the one that was revised. So on lines 7, 8, and 9, this appropriation will be changed to say debt service reprogramming, not from the Higher Ed Economic Development Investment Fund. Next page is section 5, appropriation of bond premium. Again, this lines up with the numbers that were just voted in the table. A new section XXX, bond premium reprogramming. Again, lining up with the sources list that you voted in earlier. Section 6, appropriation of one-time special funds. This is the ASHEET funding that is going into the school district's construction funding. Next section, XXX, appropriation of special funds. Again, lining up here, this is for the twin engine helicopter lease payments. And then section XXX, special fund reprogramming. Again, lining up with this table that you voted earlier. Next section, XXX, transfer from the State Treasurer's Agency bond reversion account. Matching up with the bond bill resource funding list you voted earlier. And then this is the transfer to, so the earlier was from the transfer from, this is the transfer to. And then finally, getting to section 7. This is the continuing appropriations list. So these are the list of appropriations that were set to expire at the end of the year, and this allows them to be held over for another year.
Is that everything?
That is not everything, but maybe if we want to take a break. Yes, if you want to take a break there and take a motion.
Okay. I was going to ask if there's any questions on this. Representative Osinski?
Yes, Madam Chair. On section 5, I noticed debris pits here are down at 219,750, but in the earlier form we went over, it was funded at 500,000. What's the discrepancy there? Section 5, under Department of Natural Resources, you have debris pits at 219,753, but on the allocation list, you have 500,000.
So that's an astute question. The final bond, well, it is. It's an astute question. The final, no, we pay for items in our bond bill through a variety of funding sources. So this is using a small portion of our bond premium to pay for debris pits. There'll be another funding source that will make up the difference for the total of 500,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I have another question, Representative Ramon? Did you still have a question?
Madam Chair, I just didn't hear the last part that Ruth Ann said. What was the last portion of what you read in? Because I just couldn't hear.
Oh, sure. So the continuing list, which is section 7. So every year there are appropriations that are set to expire at the end of the year. And if the agency has requested that funding needs to be extended for another year, this allows them to do that.
If there's,
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt as written section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, section XXX bond premium reprogramming, section XXX appropriation of special funds, section XXX special fund reprogramming, section XXX transfer from State Treasurer's Agency bond reversion, section XXX transfer to the State Treasurer's Agency bond reversion account, and section 7 continuing appropriations.
Second.
and are there any questions or comments on the motion? And seeing none, could Ms. Lonnie Dye call the roll call?
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Yes. Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Yes. Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Yes. Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh?
Yes.
Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, then the next section in your packet is a general section. There are 3 sections here. This is the open space funding, farmland preservation funding, and energy efficiency investment fund. And as you voted earlier, open space funding will receive $5 million. Farmland preservation funding will receive $5 million. And the energy efficiency investment fund will be suspended for this year.
Was that epilogue on hold?
No, this is new epilogue that will be inserted into the bill.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd like a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that section XX open space funding, section XX farmland preservation funding, and section XX energy efficiency investment fund be adopted as written.
Please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Secola?
Yes.
Senator Secola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
All right, so now if you can jump back into your book, we'll try to get these in order as much as we can. So the first section that was on hold was for judicial section 16, or I'm sorry, section 17 for Kent and Sussex County Judicial Court Facilities. This was on hold waiting. This is on page 13 of the governor's recommended budget. In your book, yes. And Director Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong, but since we are not appropriating funding this year, all we need to do is strike the first sentence that appropriates that funding, and the rest of the section can remain. The page number is 13. The header at the top of the page should say judicial, and we're looking at section 17, Kent and Sussex Family Court Facilities.
Okay.
So we just
going.
All right, we will just strike that first sentence there. And then
we want to do it all at once? Or
yep, we can do a few more sections before we take the motion if you'd like. The next section on hold was section 28 for the Higher Ed Economic Development Investment Fund, and that is on page 18. And again, do you just want to strike the
So, where are you at? I'm sorry. I was.
page 18, section 28, Higher Ed Economic Development Investment Fund?
Oh, I would argue that we don't need that language at this point, since there's no
Remove the language
additional
entirely.
funding, and then the prior language will still continue to guide the final allocation of the funds.
All right, so then we don't need to vote in that section. It will just remain on hold, and then it will be deleted from the bill. Thank you. All right.
19.
All right, then the next page in your book is page 19, section 29, Housing Development Fund Affordable Rental Housing Program. There is no change to this section, so it can be voted as is. Then in your packets, you will see replacements for section 30 and section 31. It just authorizes a half amount, and I apologize, this is in your packet, but I think it got put back down. You know what? Can we go ahead and just vote in? Yes.
Sounds
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt section 17 as amended by striking the first sentence and adopt section 29 as written.
Thank you. Lonnie, please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Secola?
Yes.
Senator Secola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Motion passes. Are we getting
Okay, I apologize. We're going to go back to your packets. The next one in your pile should start with new section XXX, Delaware State University and Delaware College of Art and Design. What this section does is say that the money that was appropriated to Delaware College of Art and Design and Delaware State University can now be classified as unrestricted operations for any purpose, and this comes at the request of both schools. And then the next section in your packet is for Delaware Technical and Community College, which discusses the same funding that was appropriated last year and also gives them some flexibility in the funding of their critical capital needs projects.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The next section is new section XXX Absalom Jones Community Center. This says that if there is funding left over from the Absalom Jones gym floor and Absalom Jones painting and lighting projects, any balance remaining after completion may be utilized for other projects at the Absalom Jones Center. And the next section is new section XXX land transfer to the trustees of Newcastle Commons. This comes to us at the request of the administration, so I will turn it over to them.
Mike? Is this on? Okay. So the land transfer language here allows for the state to send this small parcel of property to the city of Newcastle County. It dates back to a time where New Jersey Delaware Ferry Company owned this site, and most of the parcels were transferred to the city of Newcastle, but this small piece was not transferred at that time. It was just discovered during our title searches.
Thank you.
All right, and then the next section is for Emily P. Bissell. I will also turn that back over to OMB.
Sure.
I'm sorry, that's the trustees of Newcastle. Thank you.
So on this section, and I guess I'm sure Representative Williams and Senator Walsh, you may want to chime in. It's an option for you to consider. So we have owned the Emily P. Bissell Hospital. It has been vacant for quite some time. In a typical process, when we have such a large parcel that is vacant, there are surplus property rules that we have to go through in order to release the property. What this language will basically do is set up a group to consider requests for proposals for the site that may fit some of the job needs of the area, plus considering the needs of the surrounding community as well as the communities that are along the fence line that are part of the parcel, and that they will review the proposals and make recommendations to the governor and the chairs of the bond bill committee for the potential disposition of the property. If it is something that you want a little more dialogue around, and we can revisit this in January, that's fine as well. I know we've had a lot of dialogue around it, but I can go either way. We just wanted to put it in front of both of you two.
Oh. Representative Rowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The biggest concern I would have is the dialogue, because there's certain particular uses that are being reviewed to go into that location, or is this just an RFP that's coming out fresh that there's really no consideration for any specific use? We're just trying to put out feelers.
No, the RFP itself would be geared towards the public comment and feedback that has already come in with the variety of community input that was already received. There was language before that actually put that process in place, so that's the way the RFP itself would be developed. That's how the scope fit.
And this verbiage basically empowers us to be able to put out the RFP to get the input, then comes back to this bond group before something is...
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, Representative Williams, and then Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my concern is when this process all started years ago, is that the community does not want any type of housing built there. If we were to move forward with this, would we be able to exclude that? I'm not sure how this all works with it.
So we could write the scope. I would argue based on the feedback that had already occurred from the community, right, and use that as the basis for developing the scope itself, in combination, obviously, with what may work for the site. And again, Representative, I would be committed to working with all of you who represent that area, that if you wanted to define this a little bit more before we actually had language. This is simply authorizing us to go about this process and not use the typical surplus property rules.
Sure, and because there's some community groups that have formed talking about walkable, bikeable trails, and we've met with them, and they are looking to possibly use part of a piece of that property to connect to other walkable, bikeable trails. So my concern is, as long as you commit to us to have a conversation with the community and us, the legislators that are around that area, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, we
Okay.
absolutely have that
Okay.
commitment. I guess
Okay.
we are now in 2020. I think the site was vacated in 2015.
Yeah.
We should start to move forward with being
Okay.
able to.
And you had mentioned about possibly holding it till January, and I guess I'm asking Representative Williams if she feels comfortable with this language, given the assurance that the community will be involved.
I'm okay following Mike's.
Yeah, we certainly will
Representative
commit to that.
Ramon?
And then because
sorry.
as
You were next.
as Representative Brady's spoken about the destruction that has taken place there, busting out the windows. So, I just want to make sure the community is involved, and as long as you give us that commitment, I'm
completely understand. And just to remember, the committee itself, there's really no action that can be taken. Obviously, it's got to come back for an approval. So
I skipped Senator Walsh, so he's next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a point of clarification, I'll support my colleague, Representative Williams. I know that area. They're not looking for housing. They don't want to develop this housing. That is not my district. So I will support. I know it borders up to Representative Brady. It's in Representative Williams' district. I believe this is Senator Del Calo's district. So I will support my colleague. I do get feedback from I border up to it, but that's not my district. So
and we've had Senator Del Calo involved in the discussion from the very beginning. I think the overall point is we're 5 years into this. Let's try and make some progress, recognizing the needs of the community.
Representative Ramon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know. I would very much appreciate this being adjusted just in one way. The actual Emily Bissell, although Representative Williams' district, it's right like in the corner of really three of our districts, close, kind of, and also Senator Walsh and Senator Del Calo. Could we just change the one saying one member of the House of Representatives from each party, one member from the Senate from each party, and then there's four of us, and because we really do represent that community, that's a big spot, and it trickles over to a lot of us. And I don't know that the four representatives who have been there their whole lives wouldn't be much more valuable to the committee, but how difficult would that be to make that adjustment to be able to still consider it?
Position if the committee doesn't have any opposition.
Are you okay with that, Representative Williams?
Representative Williams, I'm asking because
it currently says one member of the House chosen by the Speaker and one from the Senate. I'm just asking one from each party.
So I would assume that I would be the one member and Senator Del Calo would be the other member, so there would be representation from both parties.
I understand. I was hoping that maybe me and Senator Walsh would be able to help also, just from being there so long.
Is that this is not to be disrespectful. Is that what we normally do? Is invite other people into other people's districts to make decisions?
I absolutely understand that, and I will defer to what you want. I was only suggesting because so many of our people worked there when it was Emily Bissell, live there, and drive by there every day. But I will defer. I'm okay.
Can I just say one thing? I am new to this, so whatever we normally do, I am okay with. But there is both parties representing.
That would be true. And in the end, it still has to come back through the minimum the governor and the co-chairs, and obviously the relationship with everyone here. I'm pretty sure that it will be fully vetted.
The only statement, and again, I'll defer, but the one statement is the Speaker and the Senate Pro Tem pick. They could pick somebody from the beach if they felt. I mean, they could. They don't have to pick both parties, but I was just asking. It was just trying.
I would rather not serve on that committee.
Duly noted. Senator Scola.
So, Representative Ramon, this will be an established RFP review committee, and those will be open to the public. So you wouldn't have to be on the committee to be able to have input in this process. So.
If we could, we just have two more sections to add into OMB.
Yes.
So the next section in your packet should start with Town of Greenwood. And what this does is reallocate funding from the Municipal Infrastructure Fund that was appropriated last year. It takes $130,000 from the City of Milford Police Station and $300,000 from the City of Seaford Economic Development Business Park and reallocates them to the Town of Greenwood for a water main replacement project. The next section in your packet is disparity study, and you just received a revised version. This authorizes the director of OMB to conduct a disparity study using up to $500,000 of minor capital improvements funding.
Thank you. Is that a good place to stop?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt new section XXX, Delaware State University and Delaware College of Art and Design, new section XXX, Delaware Technical Community College, new section XXX, Absalom Jones Community Center, new section XXX, land transfer to the trustees of the Newcastle Common, new section XXX, Emily P. Bissell, new section XXX, Town of Greenwood, and new section XX, disparity study as written.
Are there any comments or questions? Lonnie, please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Okay, next.
All right, then the next item in your packet should start with Delaware State Housing Authority. So these are the revised sections 30 and 31, and this language just amends it to say that DSHA is authorized to use no more greater, although that should be no greater than of 5% or $350,000 of the appropriated amount for administrative functions within the department, and the same way for the Strong Neighborhoods Housing Fund. This authorizes DSHA to use the greater of either 5% or $150,000 of the appropriated amount for administrative functions within DSHA.
Okay, so that is the replacement language for section 30 and 31 that's on hold.
That's correct. And then the next section that was on hold is section 33 within Department of Technology and Information. And that section, do you want that to stay since it has?
Yeah, that project should stay. They had voted in the 800 megahertz technology
Okay.
refresh.
All right, so that section can be voted in as is and taken off hold. And if you want to take a motion there, and then we'll move into Department of State.
Okay. Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt section 30, section 31, and section 33 as written.
Thank you. Roll call.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams? Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Senator Sokola.
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Department of State.
All right. The first item that was on hold under Department of State was Section 38 regarding historic preservation tax credits. This was at the request of Representative Williams, and you had asked for additional information, which I believe was provided. Do you still have questions?
I still have concerns about first come, first serve. I don't know if that can somehow be addressed. Either maybe not this year, but next year. I don't want to hold things up, but I do have an issue with someone being able to come in and take the whole $8 million.
Be happy to take a look at it, Representative. I
Thank you.
confess I wouldn't know what the full impact would be if it's first come, if we added something to restrict it that way, but be happy to follow up and look at it, as we move forward over the next couple of years.
Right. And the other concern is because of our revenue stream, it is a loss, according to the Delaware Tax Preference Report, anywhere from $1.5 to $1.7 million. So,
A year?
yes. It's something that I don't want to hold this committee up, but if it's something that we can look at to make it a fairer process for people who may have a home that they want to fix up and may not be able to have access to it. So if we could talk about it maybe sometime during the summer.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Williams.
All right, and then the next section under Department of State that was on hold was section 47 on page 24 regarding Fraunhofer vaccine development. And now that that is not appropriated in section 1, I don't believe this section is necessary either. This can remain on hold. Yep. And then in your packet, there is a revised section 48 for the Cultural Access Fund. This revision comes at the request of the administration, so I will let them explain what the request is.
Do you just want to give somebody to just give a little explanation of what that is? I think that is something that's really going to help organizations.
Sure. So you had previously voted this language in when you went through boilerplate epilogue language. We had one suggested change after having a conversation with the Secretary of State of adding the final sentence just to provide some flexibility. Obviously, the requirement is to for entities that access these resources to match the funds. But in case there's a worthy project where the match requirements could not be met, that there was some flexibility that the Secretary of State could come back through both my office as well as the Comptroller General's office for approval for those types of projects.
Thank you.
All right, so that is just the revision to section 48.
Excuse
and
me.
Then,
Excuse me.
Who said that?
Madam Chair.
Representative Ramon.
Madam Chair, may I ask that we vote on 48 separately?
Sure.
Thank you.
all right, and so then in your packet will be for the Department of Finance for casino capital expenditures. This new section says due to COVID-19 emergency, the Secretary of Finance may waive the 2020 thresholds for making qualified capital expenditures or investments contained in 81 Delaware Laws, Chapter 287. The next new section, which will be placed at the end of finance, is for municipal liquidity facility. This says notwithstanding the provisions of 29 Del C 7403 and 7404B, the issuing officers are authorized to issue bond anticipation notes or revenue anticipation notes that shall mature within a period not longer than the maximum period permitted under the municipal liquidity facility, which has been authorized under Section 13.3 of the Federal Reserve Act. This also comes at the request of the administration, so I will turn it over to them if there are any questions on this.
Are there any questions or comments on those sections? There being none, Senator Sokola, can you make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Trying to hurry up.
Make a motion, we adopt Section 38, Section XX, Casino Capital Expenditures, and Section Municipal Liquidity Facility. As written.
I'm looking for a second. Second, Representative Brady, please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Yes. Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Yes. Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon?
Sorry, Madam Chair. There has been a combination of two. I'm just going to abstain.
Well, we could.
This is not 48.
Oh, it is not 48.
No.
I misheard
No, 48
you. Okay.
isn't in it.
Yes. Apologize.
Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Yes. Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to motion we adopt revised section 48 as written.
Thank you. Second, do I have a second? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon?
Abstaining. Thank you.
Representative Ramon, abstain. Senator Townsend?
Yeah.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 11 yes, 1 abstain.
Thank you.
All right. The next section on hold was under Department of Correction. Section 60, James T. Vaughn, C Building Contingency on page 28. My understanding from the administration is this section is no longer necessary, so it can remain on hold. No vote necessary. Then moving on to section 61 on page 30 regarding Conservation Cost Sharing Program. Also no changes to this section from the governor's recommended budget.
So will it stay like
that? Will stay as it is. It can be voted in as is. Then the next section on hold was section 67 on page 31. This is regarding waterway management. Representative Gray asked us to place this on hold, and you will see a revised section in your packet. And what this new section does is just add a sentence at the end that says DENREC shall provide a report of the projects, priority rankings, and timelines for completion of the dredging, navigation, and channel marking related projects within the inland bays to the Joint Legislative Committee on the Capital Improvement Program by September 1st of each year.
Thank you.
And then the next section on hold was section 72 regarding redevelopment of strategic sites. I understand there were some questions. Is that still?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I had asked that this be put on hold based on a question Representative Williams raised. On further review, I do think we do need to discuss this matter, but not here at this time. I think this is probably a discussion we ought to have, a broader discussion around housing, especially the low-income housing matter. And I think going forward, we would like to see some more broad language around epilogue or done maybe on the floor of the House and the Senate relating to when the state uses its resources for housing or directly or indirectly, and in this case it's mostly indirectly, that we have some commitment that there be a component of low-income housing or at least mixed-income housing for such a project. That will probably be a healthy discussion on the floor of the House and Senate. And so I did want to hold this up, and I yield to Williams if she has any comments.
No, I appreciate you bringing this back up, and I agree with you. But as long as we have a commitment that we can have further discussion on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next section was section 74 regarding DENREC revenues. It was placed on hold by Representative Ramon. It's my understanding you want to leave that on hold for now. All right. And then section 75 was for clean water initiatives. And this was, I believe, because there is a number in here, so we will need to update this number to reflect section 1. But that otherwise can be voted as is.
It can be voted in with, it'll be corrected.
Correct. Same way with buried debris pit remediation, section 77. We just needed to keep that on hold until we had a number update. So it can be voted in and we will change the number. And then that was it for the Department of Natural Resources.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. We adopt section 61, revise section 67, section 72, section 74, section 75, section 77 as written.
Second from Representative Brady. Would you please call the roll, Lonnie?
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
All right, moving on to the Department of Transportation. There was one section placed on hold, section 102 on page 43. I believe that was Senator Townsend had some questions about what research programs were being conducted with this funding, and the department did provide information. Are you satisfied? Okay. And then that section can be voted in as is. That's section 102 under research programs. All right, and then in your packet there should be there are 3 new sections for Department of Transportation. The first section would be a replacement for section 108 regarding community transportation funds. You should have just received a revised list. The total list should be 18 items. Just to go over a few, there's Brandywine School District for playground equipment, Cheswold Fire Company command vehicle, City of Wilmington playground equipment for Canby Grove Park, City of Wilmington commemorative statue, Delaware Aviation Museum Foundation for various projects, Farmington Volunteer Fire Company for command vehicle, Harrington Volunteer Fire Company exterior concrete pads, Laurel Fire Company exterior concrete pads, Lipstick Fire Company command vehicle, Lillian Smith Senior Center meal delivery vehicle, Mamie Warren Senior Center meal delivery vehicle, Macaulay Court maintenance for landscaping, Millsboro Little League for lighting, Modern Maturity Center for meal delivery vehicle, Odessa Fire Company command vehicle, Town of Clayton flagpole, Town of Smyrna for a clock at Community Park, and Town of Smyrna for a commemorative statue. Then the next section in your packet is a revised section 112 regarding the Weldon House. This just requires the Department of Transportation to allocate $600,000 associated with the Weldon House to the Department of State. The next new section under Department of Transportation is regarding South Wilmington infrastructure improvements. This authorizes the department to transfer up to $1.5 million from the Road Systems Engineering Contingency Line to the South Wilmington Infrastructure Improvements Project to ensure timely completion. And that completes all the epilogue for Department of Transportation.
Madam Chairman, I would like to propose a motion that we adopt section 102, revise section 108, revise section 112, section XXX South Wilmington infrastructure improvements as written.
Madam Chair.
Representative, you have a motion, right? Let's have a second and then it's been seconded. Okay, I would like Representative Williams on the motion.
I just have a clarification. I have 2 Department of Transportation section 108s in my packet, so I assume we're voting on the 18 or the 19.
There's 19.
There should be 19 total. I'm sorry. Thank you.
It should say revised on the bottom.
Are there any other comments or questions? And thank you for that clarification, Representative Williams. Any other questions? Roll call.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, no. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 11 yes, 1 no.
All right, the next section on hold was section 114 under Department of Agriculture for farmland preservation. Chris, the section 114 regarding farmland preservation. Any amendments to this or just the number change?
On the market pressure?
I'm sorry?
Market pressure?
No, farmland preservation. Section 114 was on hold.
49. Can you say what those numbers are?
I'm assuming the question is on line 2? Yeah. Correct? So I would allocate it proportionally towards the Young Farmer Program. So it would be 1.5 million of the 5 million that's appropriated. So 3 million would become 1.5, and 10 is 5.
All right, so section 114, we will just revise the $3 million to $1.5 million and the $10 million to $5 million, and then that section can be voted in as is.
Let's do a motion. Representative Ramon?
I would assume you need to also adjust line 5, correct? Because then it says, in accordance with the rules of the policy of Delaware Farmers, an additional 1 million of the 10 million. It's 1 million of the 5 million now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was
Would it be a half?
This was legit. I mean, that was a good question.
Yeah.
Proportionally.
So, Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we amend Section 114 for the new numbers 1.5 of the 5 million on line 2, 0.5 of the 5 million on line 5, and the rest of Section 114 as written.
Please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon?
Yes.
Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Yes. Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
Please call the roll.
All right, so moving on to Department of Education, we are going to get you a new section 124 for minor capital improvements. I apologize, we just need to make some copies on that. Then the next section that was on hold was section 137 regarding City of Wilmington education initiatives. So this will just be a number change in accordance with the section 1 table that you voted earlier.
137.
And then in your packets, there are some new sections for Department of Education, the first being a market pressure fund. So this is in accordance with the allocation that you made earlier under the table. This provides funding for Brandywine to renovate the Claymont Elementary School. Then the next section in your packet is also for the Brandywine School District. It says the intent of the Joint Legislative Committee on the Capital Improvement Program that construction funding in future fiscal years for a new Charles W. Bush Early Education Center shall be contingent on the approval of a certificate of necessity by the Department of Education. Then the final section is regarding the Cesar Rodney School District. This says that the district is authorized to acquire and or lease additional property and facilities using existing Division 2, Division 3 local, as well as building permit surcharge fees collected In the event that CR School District obtains a future certificate of necessity and passes a successful major capital improvement referendum to address student overcrowding, any and all costs incurred on or after July 1st, 2020 related to acquiring and or leasing additional property and facilities shall be eligible for recoding to such major capital improvement funding.
And is that, did we have a new City of Wilmington section 137 or?
So that section, all that will need to be updated is the number. So 50 million is now 7.5 million.
Correct.
And we are waiting for section 124 for.
Representative Ramon.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It's just hard to hear sometimes back here. On the section 140, you say that was on hold. I had already requested that be put on last meeting so that you voted and I abstained.
We already voted that section, yeah.
Okay, I thought I heard you say it was on hold again.
Oh, no, I apologize. Nope.
And you abstained.
Senator Bonini. Or Senator Pettyjohn. Representative Williams. You guys are helping her, right? Okay.
In your line of vision, even if I know you don't want me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have a question about the Brandywine School District. Is that the Bush Early Learning Center? Is that from a referendum? Did a referendum pass, and is our local share a part of this?
No, the market pressure or the Bush School?
The Bush Early
That
Education. Is that part of a referendum that was passed by the Brandywine School District?
That's 100% state-funded school. It's a school, it will be 100% state-funded school. It's a county-wide special needs school for younger students, pre-K and K.
So this is
they already got they're added in to be 100% state funded. This doesn't give any money, just says that, when they get their CN, that's our intent.
So when you get your certificate of need, then you go out for a referendum.
No, it's a special school.
A special school,
and so is that open to the entire Newcastle County?
Yes. Well, I mean, when it's built, it will be a county-wide school.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be county-wide.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I was just going to clarify, there are 100% state-funded schools throughout the state for special, usually for special needs students, and they're up and down the state. But it does go through. They do go through a pretty significant process at DOE. It's not, I guess, technically the same certificate of need as a regular school, but it is a pretty significant process. Mike's gang has a good hold on it. For instance, I have the Charlton School that's just down the street from our home, and they take students, I believe, from all over the state or just Kent County. Thank you. Does that help?
I think so. If there's no other questions, let's have a motion. And I'm looking at Ramon. No.
Madam Chairman, I would like to motion that we adopt Section 137 as amended with $7.5 million in place of $50 million. New Section XXX on market pressure. New Section XXX Brandywine School District. New Section XXX related to the Caesar Rodney School District as written.
Please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Yes. Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
We're now, are you guys? Yep.
Victoria is passing out the minor capital improvement section right now to be voted in, and that will replace section 124 on page 54. All right, so you should have before you section 124, minor capital improvements for the Department of Education, and this is the revised amounts that will also be reflected in the section 1 table that you voted earlier.
Are there any questions on section 124? And I don't see any. Senator Scola, can I have a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to motion we adopt Section 124, minor capital improvements as written.
Please call the roll.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady?
Yes.
Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Yes. Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Yes. Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Yes. Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend?
Yes.
Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Yes. Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
All right, so then I think the only thing that remains on hold is section 74 under DENREC regarding their revenues. Representative Ramon?
I believe we are going to consider language, Madam Chair, about the Yardway site, and I was just trying to verify that that was going to pass until we come to a conclusion, and if not, I would like to alter that section that we put on hold to take the first $250,000 of funds that come in to be able to fund the Yardway site to assure that it stays open, along with our traditional epilogue language that was in there last year to make sure it stays operable at least the same level as the previous year.
There is no language in your operating budget right there. It was removed in the governor's recommended budget.
It was what?
There was a page of the reference. 33.
Yes, page 33 regarding DENREC revenues, section 74.
Do we have a copy of what was in there last year?
We would just add sentence, because this is what was in there
Last year there was a separate epilogue section added for the Polly Drummond Yardway site. I have a version here. Would you like that? So in last year's budget bill, there was a specific appropriation made to Polly Drummond Yardway site, and it was in the amount of $160,000. The epilogue language required that a federal overlay be conducted at the site, and it also required DENREC to work with the legislature on potential solutions, and they did provide a report as well. So this epilogue that you have in front of you really just mirrors last year's, but it suggests that the funding could come from the park facility rehab line.
Correct. And now what I am suggesting, that's why we're holding it, to make sure we attribute that funding to be certain that that funding goes to keep the Yardway site just as it states in the epilogue language. So would I have this submitted, or and that way My goal is to keep the yard waste site open. I think we've made an enormous amount of progress this year. We've actually got appraisals for another movement of the site. We have an ability to possibly privatize the site. A lot of things got slowed from February on, unfortunately, because of the COVID virus. And I think we would have this done by now, but we didn't make it. You're talking about a couple $100,000. And anybody who saw thousands and thousands of people, and the 4 people here on bond that actually have people that used it, see the need. It's been a topic of conversation for a very long time. We have still not been able to get clarity from the federal government, although I've asked personally, and they don't seem to think it's an issue, but the DNREC has not actually made a formal request whether there is an issue with the federal overlay, but to try to be kind and work in good faith. We've had meetings with the governor and with the entire assembly of legislators whose people use the site, and we had come to the conclusion that there was another optimal site that the state was going to get appraisals for and so forth. And like I said, we were moving along very quickly, and maybe we wouldn't need this year, but because of what happened with the virus and everything got shut down, we need one more year to finalize this. And there's no one in this room who understands more that yard waste sites probably shouldn't be run by the state. I don't think that's our function, but this is a service to the community that I think we need. So I would like us to vote this in and be sure that it's funded before we vote for funding.
I have a question, I guess, is that the other, when you were talking about the alternatives, one of the alternatives was, getting an appraisal and purchasing a site. And so it wasn't just delay with COVID, it was our financial situation of Delaware changing. And
Actually,
I guess,
Madam Chair, to give clarity on that, the Newcastle County was willing to partner on that in some format, and that extra partner environment we never really got to discuss for sharing parking and using other means. And quite frankly, a third environment of that is the private church right next door would also want to be involved in it. So honestly, the 3 different partners that were all involved, it just got stopped mainly because of the COVID, not because of funding, because I'm not even sure that there would have been funds needed from the state of Delaware to acquire the land in the private-public partnership that we were talking about.
Should this say 20? Yes, Senator Scola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a fair compromise. The fact of the matter is, DNREC could be here with language. It's no secret that there's a public interest in something being done in this region, and that the state ought to be a partner, whether it becomes a full public-private partnership, fully state-run, fully DSWA-run, or fully private. And whether it's fee or not, we would have welcomed language from the department. They seem to be holding up things, and I think that this ought to be continue to be the will of the legislature to come to a solution here. It's a needed resource in that region. It is well used, and it does serve a public purpose. And now we don't have yard waste going to the landfill, and you don't want that all over streets and back roads and in creeks and everything else that is much worse of a problem unless we do have a mechanism to address the high need of yard waste removal.
And I definitely support that people have, to have a place for yard waste. I think that this site has been at this location for 17 years, and I have personally had to deal with funding it every year for 8 years, so that's a long time, through JFC and now bond. I would like to, I do know that a lot of, I've seen pictures on some Newcastle County Councilman site of contractor vehicles and out-of-state vehicles using it, and that, increased cost because there's so much material. And so I would, feel comfortable if there was a way for DNREC to make sure that Delaware residents, private residents, and not contractors and not out-of-state were using it. And I don't know if they, we've asked them that, but we haven't seen that. The other thing is, do they want to charge a fee in the meantime? Or do you have any idea?
Madam Chair, I can give you a lot of clarity on that. I think the biggest issue with having a gatekeeper, so to speak, charging a fee, the fee for the processing of the gatekeeper and the fee they charged is probably going to cost us more to implement than it would the extra tonnage that we do. I think we both agree the path forward here is a public-private partnership sometime in the near future. I do want to make one point clear. When we did the epilogue last year, we perceived this was going to be a 2-year trajectory then, but you can't encumber the next session, so they actually put it, but we know that we can rewrite the law every year. So I think the intent was this was going to take 2 years. I think the concern was we wanted to have an initiative and an effort to really get people going to get it done. And I compliment the governor even came and helped. So it was DENREC, the governor, the Delaware Solid Waste Authority, Senator Scola, myself, Representative Williams, Senator Walsh, and a few other representatives in the area. So I think we're doing everything it said to do, but we said it would take 2 years. I know it's been a devastating year for money. I just don't want to lose sight of it. And if we don't have the money, what I'm proposing is we use the one item we have on hold to prioritize the first $250,000 that they bring in to offset the $250,000 to operate the yard waste site.
And what about, it's hard without DENREC being here. Perhaps Mike Jackson can answer that. What about this site is for Delaware residents, not contractors, and especially not contractors from Pennsylvania or people from out of state? And, I've seen vehicles photos on Newcastle Councilman website of these vehicles. How can that be prevented?
Madam Chair, let me remind you of something that was brought to my attention by the department. Part of the issue isn't necessarily the vehicles and the trucks that go to the site. If someone has a license that they live in the district and they borrowed a truck that happened to have a landscaper's name on it, or if someone has a car from Pennsylvania that they haven't re-registered but they live in Delaware, I actually confronted a person and embarrassed myself because I never realized that, they're still Delaware residents and they live in our districts, in our area, or in our state. So I know often they take the pictures for the paper and say people from other and commercials. And I own a landscaping company. You know that. We never use it. And I know some of my competition does. So I'm not saying you're not right occasionally, but I think the perception is it's violated much more than it actually is. And I truly believe the answer is to continue the resolution that we've begun and done a wonderful job, that next year we're not sitting here talking about it. We have a public-private partnership. It's out of the way. The biggest issue is whether it stays at its current location, and the discussion about the federal overload, which quite frankly, that clarity has not happened yet, or it's moved to the new site if the appraisal is palatable and if the partnership is arranged in a way that we can all devise it.
Yeah, maybe DENREC can put up signage that, who it's for before people get to the site, that it's, residents of the state of Delaware and non-contractors.
Madam Chairman, right across the street from this site is a parking lot. And there's 2 rates for parking there, an in-state rate and an out-of-state rate. We don't ask them if they just moved here. If they have an out-of-state license, they pay the out-of-state rate, period. And then maybe they can go re-register a little more quickly because they paid a little bit more. I don't think we should, in this committee, micromanage what DENREC does. They should do what they're supposed to be doing. And it's been frustrating to me that, a few years ago they decided they didn't want to do this, and they decided they just drop it. And we said, no, we need to have a path forward. And I'd like to have a partner in working towards a path forward so that there is a legitimate yard waste disposal site somewhere in the area. And I don't think we should worry about if there's out of state or whatever. That's enforcement, and that's not our job. We are to do the public policy, and I think this is a step in the right direction for doing
Great. I have Representative Williams, and then I have Senator Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with you, Senator Sikola. I do have a question. Wasn't there, and Mike Ramone, I'll wait for him. He might know the answer to this. or someone on this committee, wasn't there an RFP put out for someone to take over the site a couple years ago?
There was an RFP put out 4 years ago for a public-private partnership, but they did not accept any of the responses, or actually, I don't even know that the people ended up responding who were interested, Copeland and a couple others who were interested, because of the issues with the federal overlay and certain people in the department feeling that they just didn't want it to be there. They wanted to take a public-private partnership and then do it at their private location. That was what the RFP was, not running the site with a public-private partnership.
And my point is that if it was a federal overlay, why do we put an RFP out in the first place? So I agree that this is something that our constituents in my area and the areas around me want, and they have spoken loudly with over 2,000 people emailing us. This is something that I think we should listen to our constituents. They want it. It's something that they enjoy, and thank you for making sure this happens this year.
Senator Walsh?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I would like to say, they do police this up there. There is some fallacy that they don't. They do. DENREC does police this from time to time, not all the time, but they do catch people. They catch contractors. They catch out-of-state people there. If you remember, as Representative Ramon said, this was a 2-year commitment. Last year, we couldn't put it in bond for 2 years because we can only do 1 year at a time. As everybody probably on this committee remembers, I myself received over 2,500 emails for this site to remain open. You didn't get that this year because there wasn't, people assumed that this was going to stay open another year. So we have been working, as Representative Ramon says, to move this into a public-private partnership. We do have a solution, hopefully, in the future. We've looked at property to purchase in conjunction with the county. So there is a cost share here with the county, and moving this into who this should be doing this is DSWA, Solid Waste Authority. So, but as Senator Sokolis mentioned, we have really gotten no help from DENREC on this. They should be here. We have to write this. I got elected 4 years ago. I've been fighting every year for this yard waste site, as Senator Peterson did before me, and probably Senator Sharp before that. This has been a battle every year. It was in JFC. They decided not to fund it. We did it at bond here to keep this thing active. This needs to stay open. It's a much utilized yard waste site in several districts, not just my district, several districts. And there was big issues in the district before with flooding in the district due to a lot of people dumping their yard waste stuff in creeks and streams. And that will happen again if we do not keep this open at this time.
And I don't think, I think that that we are, I mean, this looks like we're in agreement here. I just wanted to add that I did ask Secretary Garvin about this RFP that Representative Williams was referring to, and asked to have a copy of that to see, and they couldn't find it or didn't know what I was talking about. Okay, so how, like, what are we putting in? Where is the money coming out of DENREC's appropriation?
Madam Chair, what I was hoping was we could pass the verbiage and then go back to the I'm sorry, Ruth, what number did we put on hold?
Section 74, revenues.
74, and then if we needed to go back to 74, we would change that verbiage to say the first X amount of dollars would go towards the funding of the yard site, unless the department or the Secretary of State would rather do it in a different way to fund. Whatever works.
Suggestion, I'm sure it's the same as Ruth Ann was going to offer, but the language that was just distributed would continue the operation of Polly Drummond. You had voted in a parks basically maintenance line for some of the buildings, and it would come out of that to maintain the levels. So that's the language that was just distributed, which, you know, if your desire is to keep it operating, this is probably the cleanest way for that to happen. And let their revenues, their fee-based revenues, be what they are, largely because of, you know, they like other states are having challenges with some of their fee-based programs given COVID-19. This is probably the most stable way to do it.
So, Madam Chair, so what I would ask is that maybe the XXX that I just submitted for Polydrum and yard waste be passed, and then we go back and pass the item we put on hold, and neither, I guess, at that point would need to be altered for the yard waste site to continue to operate this year as it did last. Thank you.
And when it says minimum of the service level consistent, but yet it's going to be more money because they wanted more money, is that why?
No,
'Cause that
Madam
was
Chair,
160.
what happened when Senator Peterson and I and Senator Sokola went through a similar environment in the past to try to keep the yard waste site open. Senator Peterson had actually put verbiage in to say it remained open, and at that time it was open 6 days a week. And what they ended up doing was they reduced it to 3, and she was a little upset. So this time I saw the verbiage last year, and I said at the same level or more. So really what we're speaking about is it's open on Saturdays and Sundays from dawn to dusk. That's all we're really asking for, just to keep it the same so that people have a place to relieve their stuff.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I would like Senator Scola. We have
Chairman.
one section on hold and section XXX to vote in.
I'd like to adopt section XXX as written and section 74 revenues as written.
Any questions? Motion, please read the roll.
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady, yes. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 12 yes.
All right, that completes all of the epilogue sections for the bond bill. So we would just ask that you make one final motion that the Comptroller General's office be authorized to make any technical corrections in the bill for any inconsistencies, nothing of a policy nature that would change the intent of the bill, just so that we can have that flexibility to clean up the bill.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that the Comptroller General's office will have the ability to make technical adjustments and corrections to the bill that do not affect the policy or intent voted on here tonight.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call?
Senator Bonini? Senator Bonini, yes. Representative Brady? Representative Brady absent. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, yes. Representative Gray? Representative Gray, yes. Representative Osinski?
Yes.
Representative Osinski, yes. Senator Pettyjohn? Senator Pettyjohn, yes. Representative Ramon? Representative Ramon, yes. Senator Townsend? Senator Townsend, yes. Senator Walsh? Senator Walsh, yes. Representative Williams?
Yes.
Representative Williams, yes. Senator Sokola?
Yes.
Senator Sokola, yes. Representative Heffernan?
Yes.
Representative Heffernan, yes. 11 yes, 1 absent.
And I would like to know if, show by your show of hands, and I'll name everybody, would all members like to be listed as sponsors of the bill? Upon our final vote, which we already did, the bill will be first heard in the Senate next week. So if you want to be a co-sponsor, it sounds like everybody's a yes, so everybody's on it.
And
I want to
just a point of
thank
order.
everybody.
If you did hear, it is in the Senate first, and that's because of the logistics of how they're running, so that both bills can get passed. We have to do the resolutions that say what the income is and what the authorization is and all of that stuff. And so it will be heard in the Senate next week first.
And I just want to thank everyone for being here, and especially our OMB staff and our CG staff, and especially Mike Morton and Ruth Ann Jones. Thank you. Yay! And we did it. 15 minutes to Fizz Fair.
One of us out here.
Oh.
That's